I come to this out of a lifetime of working on the issue, trying to define it, trying to articulate and explain to people why it's appropriate, what it is that's happened. And I come to that of something I was told by an elder 35 odd years ago when I was active in the American Indian movement in South Dakota, which at the time was basically a war zone. Counterinsurgency war was being waged by the federal government against indigenous people standing on treaty rights, primarily on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, but elsewhere as well. And what he said, the guy's name was Matthew King. He was assistant to Fool's Grove, who was the primary leader of the Oglala Lakota in a traditional way. And we had stopped to help, see if he needed any help, needed water, needed food, needed anything like that. And he didn't, just said sit down and have coffee, so we did. And he basically said, you know, kind of admire you guys got a lot of energy, certainly got courage, but you're never going to succeed what you're trying to do. And we all kind of looked at him, because he's a major supporter among the old people of aim on Pine Ridge. So finally, one of the guys said, well, why, Uncle? Are you so sure we won't succeed? He said, because you don't know where you're going. The reason you don't know where you're going is you don't know where you are. And the reason you don't know where you are is you don't know where you came from. But you got to understand, and I'm paraphrasing, he didn't put it just this way, and I can't really remember exactly how he put it. But you have to understand your history to understand your present. If you don't have that, you've got no clue really where you are. You know how you feel, but you don't know where you are. If you don't know where you are, you don't know how to get to where you're going to go. Just like you're making a trip across these plains. They're flat, they're like water. It's really easy to get disoriented. There's various ways you go about fixing your position on them, but the best way is when you pass a landmark, every once in a while you look over your shoulder to see where you are in relation to that. You know where it was. And in relation to that, you know where you are, and then you can fix your direction to where you're going to go. And that's the purpose served by history, and that's the purpose that's served by meaning. Well, we have a process here to basically nullify both the factual reality and the meaning of history. And the linchpin is this conception of genocide. The genocide, I've argued, and lots of other people have argued, is kind of the crux of the whole thing. Defines the relations between indigenous and non-indigenous settler societies as they've come in really since the beginning. But of course, we understand it officially, like there are no political prisoners in American institutions. There's never been any genocide. Not here. Well, there's been genocide other places, of course. Indeed, the U.S. House of Representatives just voted to acknowledge the fact that what happened to the Armenians between 1915 and 1980 or 1918 was indeed a genocide. That's never been a mystery to the Armenians. It's never really been a mystery to the perpetrators, the Turks, which is why they're so vociferous about insisting it be called not a genocide, a tragedy, an error, an oops, there went your population kind of phenomenon. Anything but genocide. They actually have a compact with Israel. Israel, as a matter of policy, will not allow the word genocide to be attached to what happened to the Armenians in 1915 in the teaching of history in Israeli schools to school children. They call it the Armenian tragedy, I believe, is the most common term. As a matter of policy, you will not attach the word genocide to what happened to the Armenians. In exchange, Turkey teaches its school children that the only genocide that's ever happened to the Jews in the Second World War at the hands of the Nazis. Quid pro quo. spilled over into official policy or quasi-official policy in the United States as well, and in other countries. The Holocaust Museum that was constructed on taxpayer dollars in Washington, D.C., that says close proximity to the Smithsonian, was informed straight up, you will not make reference to the Armenian genocide. You can have literature on what happened to the Armenians, a parallel track, and it's informative. You won't call it genocide. It will not be observed as a genocide. That's a matter of official denial. And the reasons for it in some of the non-Turkish parties, the collaboration on that would be a discussion in itself, but I'm going to walk away from that and get into it in Q&A if you'd like to. Well, we found the same thing during the run-up to the Columbian Quincentenary, a celebration of the 500th anniversary of the point at which a supposed Italian, lost Italian seaman, washed up on a beach half a world away from where he thought he was and got known as a great navigator ever since. Yeah. They were going to celebrate that one. And there were some of us that took some exception to that. Said that Columbus had unleashed, in terms of geographical scale and duration, an unparalleled process of genocide in this hemisphere. Now, it was at that very time that the National Endowment of Humanities down there was soliciting proposals for public education projects to attend the Quincentenary. They're going to make a real extravaganza of it, and we're going to have all these little tracks for school children and little TV specials and public service announcements and traveling dog and pony shows. And we're going to explain the significance of the Columbian landfall to the general public. What wasn't said in the RFP, the request for proposals, is that any proposal that even mentioned the word genocide was summarily dumped in the trash. Had a delicious little irony in there because, I mean, that's what the edict that came down from the current vice president's wife, who was heading the National Endowment at the time, that edict just said if it mentions genocide, dump it. You had a bunch of proposals in there that were purporting to explain to the public why the word genocide did not apply, and they got dumped right along with the rest. So that was kind of cute and clever, but it shows you this de facto official prohibition on using the G word, I guess we'd have to call it, because you're not supposed to say it, down in the States at least. That's an official posture. It's not to be allowed to be talked about, really, in the public domain. You're free to talk about it, I suppose, so long as nobody's listening. As long as you can be kind of used as a baffle ball and batted around for being shrill and extravagant and misstating the case and distorting history yourself when you try to correct the distortions. They even called in Newsweek magazine during that period Bartolome de las Casas a revisionist historian. Now, some of you may know that Bartolome de las Casas was the first historian, the European persuasion, literate, in the so-called New World. There was no history there for him to revise, but he was a revisionist. And why? Because he did not conform to the official line of how you were to interpret this. So he must be. Revisionism actually has a meaning, but they used it as an epithet. And I have a little experience up here as well. Having been called as an expert witness to testify during the suit that was put forth by Dashawa against a group called Friends of the Lubicon in the late 90s. Now, excuse me? Was it late 80s? Oh well, my time flies and you're having fun. See, you get older and you lose all sense of time. Time has no meaning in that linear sense of the West, and I'll testify to that too. Just give me a judicial docket, I'll be there.